I've built the biggest steam engine I've ever made. And when I say big, I mean 2.5 million stress units big. Yep, you heard that right. 2.5 million. That's not just power, that's blow up your PC levels of power. I've got, 10 of these generators lined up? One, two, three, four. Yep, 10. And here's the funny part. This whole setup isn't even maxed out yet. Nope. I stopped at 2.5 million stress units because, let's be honest, that's already a little overkill. But hey, if you want me to push it even further, just say the word and I'll make it even bigger. I mean, who doesn't want their Minecraft world to run on the energy equivalent of a small sun? Alright, let's break this powerhouse down step by step. We'll divide it into parts so it all makes sense. Let's start with the tank. If you don't already know how boilers work, don't worry, I'll explain. A boiler is basically a bunch of tanks stacked together with a heat source underneath. Now, it doesn't really matter which heat source you use, but the hotter it is, the stronger your steam engine gets. Think of it as Minecraft's way of saying, yes, fire really is magic. The maximum size boiler you can build looks something like this, a massive tower of tanks with a blaze furnace underneath. But here's the twist. Don't just throw regular lava into a blaze burner. Nope. We're going to max it out. We're using blaze cakes, because apparently in Create, dessert isn't just food, it's fuel. Then on top, you slap a whole bunch of steam engines. Lots of them. And voila, you've got power. Normally you'd get a decent amount, but of course I pushed it a little. Okay, a lot further. We're talking millions here. But let's rewind for a second. The basic steam engine doesn't have to be this monstrous. You can build a smaller, much simpler version, and it'll still work. Just don't expect it to power your entire Minecraft world. So yeah, that's the foundation of a steam engine. Simple, right? At least until you start stacking blaze cakes like you're running an industrial bakery. Now, you might be wondering, okay, but what am I actually looking at here? Well, it's simple. We need blaze cakes. Because without blaze cakes, your steam engines will never hit their maximum power. And who wants a half-powered factory? Not me. So let's take a look. How do we make blaze cakes? You start with a blaze cake base and you fill it with lava. Lava, pretty easy to get. Just go swimming in the nether. And try not to die. The base itself is also simple. Egg, sugar, no problem. But then comes the tricky part, cinder flour. That's made by crushing netherrack. And netherrack, as you probably know, doesn't just grow on trees, you actually have to mine it. Annoying, right? But wait, it gets even more fun. You can craft netherrack yourself, but it's a bit more complicated. Basically, you take cobblestone, mix it with a potion of healing using a spout, and boom, you've got netherrack. Minecraft logic at its finest. Here, heal this cobblestone. Congratulations, it's now evil rock. And how do you make that potion of healing? In a blaze burner, of course, by mixing water with a glistering melon slice. And glistering melon? Well, that's just a melon slice covered in gold nuggets. Because clearly the only thing better than fruit is fruit dipped in gold. And then, of course, we have to look at the gold nugget. How do you get one? Well, you can actually wash red sand to get nuggets. But where do you get red sand? Easy. You make it from terracotta using a millstone. And terracotta? That comes from smelting clay blocks. Clay blocks come from clay balls. And clay balls, well, you can get those from gravel. And gravel? Yep, you guessed it, from cobblestone. See where this is going? This is why the farm ends up being so massive. Because crafting a blaze cake isn't just bake a cake. It's rebuild half the periodic table inside Minecraft. And this is exactly why everyone in Create always says, the only thing you really need is a cobblestone generator. Because once you have cobblestone, you can turn it into, well, basically anything. Blaze cakes, gold nuggets, industrial revolution, whatever you like. All roads lead back to cobblestone, and that's basically what you're seeing here. We've got the entire Blaze Cake production line, plus a bunch of smaller farms feeding into it. Over here, we've got the netherwarp farm, the melon farm, the sugarcane farm, the egg farm, and yes, that means a ridiculous amount of chickens. How many chickens, you ask? Let's count together. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, 25 pens of 15 chickens each. That's 375 chickens, all clucking away just to keep this machine fed. Honestly, at this point, I feel less like an engineer and more like a chicken farmer with a very complicated side hustle. Then we've got 2 layers of sugarcane farms and, of course, the monster of the show, a high-speed, maxed-out cobblestone generator. Actually, scratch that. There are 2 cobblestone generators, one for general use and another just for lava production. I originally tried to make a lava farm with cauldrons and dripstone. Yeah, spoiler, that didn't work. Not even close. The amount of lava we burn through here is absolutely insane. Remember, every single blaze cake eats up 50 millibuckets of lava. That's not a little splash. That's practically a whole swimming pool when you multiply it by thousands. At one point, half the entire farm was dedicated just to producing lava. And now, all of that has been replaced by this tiny little setup. Crazy, right? Efficiency upgrade 100%. So this is what I'd call the advanced method of producing lava. And honestly, it's surprisingly simple. Here's how it works. You take cobblestone, because of course it always starts with cobblestone, heat it up with a superheated blaze burner, toss it into a mechanical mixer, and out comes lava. Convenient, right? Especially since we're already mass-producing blaze cakes, which means we've basically got an infinite supply of superheated burners on tap. Now here's the fun part. This process actually gives you more lava than it costs. Remember, a single blaze cake only consumes 50 millibuckets of lava to make, but that same cake can help generate way more than 50 millibuckets in return, which means this tiny little setup ends up producing a ridiculous amount of lava. Over here, we've also got some spouts and, of course, the mechanical arms, all fully automated to grab whatever they need for the blaze cake production line. The whole system is hands-free. I just stand here, watch the chaos, and pretend I'm in charge. Even the burners here, what are they making again? Oh, right, these 2 mixers. They've got blaze burners underneath that constantly need to stay heated with lava. But don't worry, that's all automated too. The spouts keep refilling them, so it's a completely closed loop. A perfect circle of fiery efficiency. You never have to lift a finger again. Looking around, we've pretty much covered everything. The rest of this build is mainly just the mechanics holding it all together. I'll explain in a moment how it all works in detail, but for now, let's keep moving, because as you can see, this farm is absolutely massive. And remember, we're sitting at 2.5 million stress units. Honestly, you'll never need more than that. If you do, you're either running an empire, or you've lost control of your life. Of course, this is very much a late-game farm. If you want to try building it early on, be my guest. I'd love to hear if anyone actually pulls it off. But yeah, let's be real. This thing isn't exactly cheap. I tried to keep it somewhat affordable, but, well, Minecraft economics don't always play along. Alright, let's quickly run through all the parts, because this right here is the heart of the entire farm, the core of the farm. It all starts with a cobblestone generator. The cobble gets milled down into gravel, then crushed into sand. That sand goes through a washer, which turns it into clay balls. Those clay balls get pressed into clay blocks, which are then smelted into red sand. The red sand gets washed again. And voila, gold nuggets. The leftover byproducts? Yeah, those little sticks? We just burn them. No waste here, this is Minecraft industrial recycling at its finest. From there, the gold nuggets head straight into the automatic crafters, which crank out glistering melons. For that, of course, we also need melons, and that's handled right here, in this cute little auto farm. Let me break it down. There's a water wheel under the soil connected to the rest of the contraption, which powers this small harvesting mechanism. It rotates, replants the melon, and collects the leftovers every cycle. Simple, elegant, and it keeps the melon supply flowing without me ever having to swing a hoe again. And that's basically how the simple part works. Everything flows into the automatic crafters, and once all the ingredients are ready, they crank out the glistering melon. From there, the melons head into this basin, because now we're moving on to brewing the healing potion. But first, we need one more thing, a mundane potion. That's made by combining netherwort with water and heating it over a blaze burner. Exactly what's happening right here. The water gets pumped into this basin, it's kept hot by the burner, and out comes our potion base. Then, with the glistering melon added, we get a potion of healing. That potion is pumped straight into this spout, and right next to it, this tiny little cobblestone generator, the smallest one in the entire system. But honestly, it's more than enough to keep the spout filled with cobblestone. And when you mix that potion with cobblestone, boom, you've got netherwort. Now that we've finally got our netherrack, it needs to be crushed down with the crushing wheels. And from there, we're basically at the basin where the blaze cake base itself is made. Of course, the recipe also calls for eggs and sugar. The sugar comes from this 2-layer sugarcane farm. It works the same way as that little melon farm I showed earlier, using a harvester. Only this time, it's on steroids. 2 full decks of cane constantly fed into these belts and straight into a millstone to be ground into sugar. Easy. Then we've got the egg farm, and that one pretty much speaks for itself. 25 pens with 15 chickens each. Yep, that's 375 chickens, all doing their part to power a late-game industrial empire by laying eggs. Not exactly glamorous work, but hey, it gets the job done. And that's basically everything you need to make a blaze cake base. As you can see, it's not super complicated. It's just a lot. A whole lot. Minecraft engineering at its finest. Simple in theory, absolute chaos in practice. I'll be honest. The hardest part of this whole build isn't actually making the farms, it's connecting all the parts together. You can probably see what I mean. If I had to explain every belt, gear, and shaft one by one, we'd be here until tomorrow. But hey, if that's something you'd actually like to see, let me know down in the comments. I'll happily torture myself with a step-by-step wiring video. Anyway, back to the lava. Once everything is set up, the lava gets pumped straight into the lava tank cakes. Over here you can see the lava generator I showed earlier. It runs on a cobblestone generator. The farm is small, simple, but surprisingly effective. Honestly, this was the first time I tried building it, and it works perfectly. That same blaze cakes also feeds the blaze burners. And yes, those burners are kept supplied by mechanical arms doing all the heavy lifting. Fully automated, as always. And finally, here's the storage tank, because trust me, you need it. The spout that fills the blaze cakes chews through lava like it's an all-you-can-drink buffet. And that's it. You've now got blaze cakes being produced and sent all across the farm on these conveyor belts. They get delivered straight into the boilers. I've got, 10 of them lined up here? Yep, 10 full-size industrial monsters running on nothing but cake and lava. Truly the dream diet. At this point, we've pretty much covered the entire farm. The only thing left to mention is the sheer number of steam engines involved. Each boiler has about 18 steam engines attached. Multiply that by 10 boilers and you end up with 180 steam engines in total. All of that combined power adds up to, wait for it, 2.5 million stress units. Which is absolutely insane. Like, if this doesn't power your base, then honestly, you're building something that probably shouldn't exist. So yeah, all the power for this entire setup ultimately comes from the boilers, and they're running at absolute maximum capacity. This whole system is basically the definition of overkill, and I love it. Since we're generating way more energy than we actually spend, yeah, that part kind of speaks for itself. The farm itself is being powered by the steam engines too. These are hooked up to speed controllers, which basically convert the slow but insanely powerful stress units into usable RPM. Think of it like gearing down a truck engine so you can actually drive it instead of just tearing the world in half. Now, here's where it gets interesting. The entire farm actually runs on 2 main power lines. a fast one and a slower one. Why? Well, it's because not everything needs to spin like crazy. The cobblestone generators and their crushing wheels, they love high speed. The faster they go, the better they perform. So those get hooked up to the high RPM line. But then you've got things like the automatic crafters, the belts, and all the smaller systems. They don't need insane speed, just enough to keep things moving smoothly. So all of those are connected to the slower output. This split keeps the whole farm running efficiently. Basically, fast line for the cobblestone factories of doom, slow line for everything else. Simple, balanced, and it makes sure nothing explodes. Well, almost nothing. And that, my friends, is the farm. As you can see, it's huge. Like, unnecessarily huge. But here's the thing, it doesn't have to be. You could absolutely make this build smaller and more compact. Stack the parts closer together, maybe even build it vertically. Honestly, if enough people are interested, I might just try turning the whole thing into a giant cube one day. For now, though, I wanted to show you the full farm, nice and open, so you can clearly see how everything connects. That way, you can learn from it and try building it yourself. You don't need to copy it block for block. Just pause the video, study the layout, and use the idea in your own world. The cobblestone generator that produces sand is really the main reason the rest of the farm is so big. If you cut that in half while keeping everything else the same, the entire build could be much smaller. More compact, less overwhelming, and still totally functional. You just end up with fewer steam boilers running at once. In my case, I just kept adding boilers to see how far I could push it. And, well, here we are. Honestly, I think I could have pushed it even further. Looking at the setup, I probably could have gone past 3 million stress units. But I didn't. Why? Because I was worried the whole thing might stall. Here's the problem. If the blaze cakes ever stop coming in, the steam engines shut down. And when they shut down, the entire blaze cake production line also stops. And when that happens, well, congratulations. Your whole factory just died. Trust me, it's happened to me a few times already. Now, it shouldn't happen with the way I've got it tuned now, but if it does, don't panic. There's an easy fix. All you need to do is grab a few buckets of water and pour them into a boiler, or a couple of boilers. Once even one boiler gets a bit of water and a few blaze cakes at the bottom, the system will kickstart itself again. And in the absolute worst case scenario, where you somehow have 0 blaze cakes left, which, let's be real, should never happen, you can always just dump some lava straight into the burners to get things moving again. Problem solved. And once it restarts, the whole farm kicks back into motion. Blaze cakes start rolling in, the steam engines fire back up, and everything comes back to life. So yeah, that's the farm. Let me know what you think down in the comments. If anything wasn't clear, or if there's a specific part you'd like to see in detail, I can make a video on that. I could even build the entire thing from scratch on camera, though fair warning, that would probably take a few hours. Got any tips? Drop them below. I always read the comments. And if there's enough interest, I might even release schematics for this build. I'm also curious, what would you even need 2.5 million stress units for? That's an absurd amount of power, but hey, I'd love to see what kind of crazy farms you come up with. As always, thanks for watching. It's been fun. I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.